Antoine Godin, a 40-year-old man, was living his life as perfect as one could imagine it to be. He had good health, both his parents still guiding him, 2 wonderful daughters, and healthy marriage with his loving life. The man kissed his wife goodbye as the two shared a soft kiss at the airport, while their daughters were standing next to them. He soon went away wishing his family one last farewell. Antoine was a man with every reason to be happy and the lucidity to realize it. Everything was perfect, yet there was a pain inside him that he couldn't show or tell anyone about. On the other hand, lived a boy named Laurent. Sadly, the young child had a terminal condition from the moment he was born. But his mother, Jacqueline, was there for him and did everything she could to care for him. Jacqueline would play with her kid while walking down the street, drop him off at school, and give him lots of hugs and kisses so he would never feel lonely or depressed. Every time Jacqueline left the house to run errands, she would take Laurent to school, give him a hug, and tease him through the windows. Jacqueline was on the train when she had a flashback of the moment Laurent was born. She was crying and shivering in pain when she gave birth to Laurent in a hospital. Jacqueline and her husband felt immense joy. However, the doctor seemed worried after taking a good look at the boy. He wrapped the baby and handed it to the mother, later revealing that the baby was born with Down syndrome, a terminal disease. While the boy slept, the child's parents were having a disagreement at home after coming back from the hospital. Jacqueline's husband made the suggestion that they leave their son with someone who would take care of him. The mother, however, turned down his advice, stating that she was his mother and wouldn't abandon him. She informed him that she was very disappointed with him for speaking poorly of his own son, and that he was free to leave at any time if he wished to. Jacqueline immediately took the metro to the church following their argument, where she discovered the disability her son has. An individual with Down syndrome has a maximum 25-year life expectancy, according to a book that made the claim. The mother was in immense pain as she realized her helplessness. She determined to live her entire life for her son while crying and gazing at her infant while at church. She only wished for her son to have a long life and was ready to do anything that would take to do so. Back in his hotel room, Antoine woke up in his bed to the sound of the ringing alarm by his bed. He called his family on his laptop, while getting ready for his work at a club where he served as the DJ. The man relived his old days and enjoyed his time at the club, after which he also visited his therapist. Antoine mentioned to his therapist about his photos from his childhood, where there was a bottle of rum in each one of them. But the photos had another thing in common: his old girlfriend Carol, who was in every single photo of his. He remembered Antoine and Carol when they were still young and fascinated by music. It was the day the two young people shared their first passionate kiss and expressed their wish to be together forever. However, reality ended up being very different from their hopes for the future. Even after so many years of a happy marriage, Antoine struggled to move on from his past and leave Carol behind, and it was the same for Carol. They both would sit silently for hours wearing headphones, driving, and spending sleepless nights, trying to forget each other, but nothing seemed to work. Jacqueline was meanwhile doing all efforts possible to make Laurent a strong kid. She encouraged the boy to attend several lessons and scheduled visits with the doctor so that she could give him the finest treatment possible to increase his strength and immunity. Even her friends expressed concern about the amount of pressure she was placing on the youngster. Jacqueline, however, responded that her son was excellent in all areas and was capable of handling the classes. Jacqueline saw scratches and broken buttons on her son's coat one day at his school, after she got off work. When she questioned the teachers, she learned that Laurent was being bullied at school by a boy by the name of Sean. She grabbed Sean's hand roughly and warned him, asking him not to ever again touch her kid. After this incident, Jacqueline even considered enrolling Laurent in a boxing academy so he could learn self-defense. Laurent, though, told his mother that he preferred not to box. She listened to her son's pleading and taught him how to use swearing in its place, which he quickly started doing at school. In front of everyone there, he yelled and cursed Sean. The mother pretended to be disciplining the child, but she was especially happy with him for using her advice instead of picking a fight. He was brought back to his house by Jacqueline, where they played on the swing and celebrated his birthday a few days later. Jacqueline was clinging to her dream. At his home, Antoine was troubled by the thoughts of Carol even when he slept. The next day he went to Carol's residence with his daughters, and found Carol lying unconscious on the ground. Her daughter called out to her mother, hearing to which the woman woke up instantly and rushed upstairs to get a change of clothes. Antoine and Carol didn't have much to say to one another before the man left her house while kissing his daughters and saying goodbye to them. Outside her home, when Antoine was just about to leave in his car, he heard a woman's voice. It was Carol's sister who was coming toward him. The two greeted each other and had a small talk about his next gig, and he invited her and Carol to it before parting ways. The two, however, didn't like each other one bit, despite how it seemed at first glance, as they cursed each other silently. The two sisters talked about Antoine in her living room as Carol practiced yoga. Her sister continued to curse Antoine for abandoning Carol and said that she should have filed a lawsuit against him years ago. In his car, Antoine turned off the song that was currently playing. He mentioned to the therapist that it was his oldest daughter who had put the songs on his playlist that Carol liked, so that they keep reminding him of her mother. He continued talking, remembering the time he met his current beautiful wife. He was at a party with his family when they both first caught each other's glance, and the man asked his friend about the girl. However, noticing that Antoine had a wife and 2 kids, the girl turned down the idea of talking to the man. Days after that, Antoine couldn't stop thinking about how he was ruining his own life and couldn't think of a reason to live. The therapist tensed up when he heard this, but Antoine reassured him that he wouldn't do anything to hurt his girls. Antoine went on to mention the irony of the fact that it was Carol who helped him get closer to his current wife. When he started to stay frustrated and depressed at home, Carol reached out to his mother expressing her concerns about her husband. Her mother tricked Antoine into believing that his father was staying ill and asked him to take him to small community service. It was the community where he saw the unknown girl once again after the party, who would later become his wife. The following days, Antoine started visiting the meeting more often and wearing good clothes and cologne. Even his older daughter observed her father's strange behavior, but Carol trusted her husband and convinced her daughter that nothing was as it seemed. Antoine explained to the therapist how the new girl he recently met gave off that sweet sense that one feels when he or she finds their soulmate. He was also reminded of a time when he felt exactly the same way about Carol. The man thought to himself that if Carol was his soulmate, he shouldn't have experienced the same emotions with another woman. Antoine chuckled as the therapist asked him out of curiosity the reason he left one soulmate for another, saying that he just sounded like his dad when he asked that. It was 1 year after he met Rose at the New Year party. Antoine was sitting beside Rose, fondling her hair. However, his eldest daughter was upset with her father's choice to replace her mother with this new woman, whom she knew nothing about. When Rose's grandfather and Antoine's father said their brief blessings to everyone in the room and wished them a prosperous new year, she discovered Rose had multiple tattoos on her body, perhaps as a result of Antoine. The two danced in the middle of the room, without caring about everyone looking at them. Antoine got further closer to Rose and asked her to marry him, telling her that she was everything he had ever wanted and that he would never accept anyone else. Upon hearing the sweet words, the woman embraced Antoine tightly while crying with happiness and accepted his proposal. They were both overjoyed to be together, but his daughter wasn't, who stared down the woman who bewitched her father. She would rebel by cranking up the volume of the speakers she used to listen to songs every once in a while. Carol told her sister about the visions she has been having recently while in a sauna. She added that her car was carrying a crippled child in the back. The young child reaches out to her, but she gets terrified every time, and the dream ends there as she awakes. Her sister shows her concern, asking if Carol could recognize the baby, but she replied that it was too dark to recognize the face of that child. In the meantime, Laurent had recently made a new friend who was similar to him and had special needs. A pretty girl named Vero joined his class. She rushed over to Laurent, who was already hugging his mother, and surprised everyone by embracing the little boy. The mother went to the girl's parents as the two young children continued to hug one another. Before he asked her name and introduced himself, Laurent gave her face a closer look. When he gazed into her eyes, he couldn't help but smile, and they later said farewell to Jacqueline from the window. After a few months had passed, the two kids continued to get closer, and were constantly cuddling in class. When Jacqueline returned from work one day, she discovered the two at the school hugging and unwilling to part ways. Laurent asked his mother if Vero could come along with them, to which she had to agree to give in to the children's requests. The woman brought them both to her workplace and even made the youngsters assist her there by shampooing a customer. Vero was picked up by her parents at Jacqueline's house, while still in her pajamas and with her hair in a sweet bun. Vero insisted on staying with her new friend, but her parents later took her home nevertheless. The following morning, Laurent was in bed with his mother when she questioned him about whether Vero was the boy's girlfriend or not. Laurent accepted the fact and went on to mention that she was very pretty and her mother was too. He claimed to be in love with the little girl. Hearing such words from her son, the lady humorously remarked that he was only 7 years old and had only known the girl for about 2 months. Laurent told his mother that he loved Vero just the way he loved his mother, hearing to which Jacqueline kissed her innocent little kid. The following day, she dropped him off at school, when the child gave Vero another hug. The mother stood by the window as usual for their goodbye. However, this time the boy didn't show up at the window and the mother left the place as her smile disappeared from her face. The daughters of Carol stared at their mother as she walked around the house while she was asleep. Initially speaking more slowly, the girls tried to call out to their mother after noticing that Carol appeared to be in pain. Antoine heard Rose's worry in the meantime. She was afraid of Carol and worried that one day Antoine would change his mind and return to his first wife, stealing her dearest from her. Rose added that she fully comprehends what Carol must be experiencing. Having 2 wonderful daughters with Antoine, and divorcing after 20 years of marriage must have felt like her life being destroyed. Antoine didn't pay much attention when Rose asked if he intended to inform Carol about their marriage, replying instead that they shouldn't rush things. Now that Antoine was in charge of looking after the kids, Carol drove to his house and sent the girls away for another week. Carol pushed, stating that it was his week and that it was non-negotiable, despite the fact that her older daughter didn't want to leave her mother. Soon after the girl left, Antoine approached the car and told Carol the big news of his remarriage to Rose. As she pulled away in her vehicle, the woman smiled at Rose briefly before it quickly vanished. When Rose asked Antoine if he had told Carol about their second marriage, he said that he had. He should have given Carol some time, Rose cried, and his parents weren't prepared for this. Rose began to lose her cool. However, Antoine calmed her down. He informed her that neither Carol nor his parents would ever be prepared for it and that they should instead follow their hearts. They shared a brief moment when Antoine's daughter came up to the two asking them if they were getting married. The woman remembered the time before the two had broken up, while Carol lay uncovered in her pool. She remembered how she begged Antoine to stay with her and promised to mend their relationship. The following day, she was with her sister and wished she could forget about Antoine and how they used to be. While her sister continued to criticize Rose, Carol complimented Rose on how lovely she was and talked about how well the two had already become close. Carol continued to hold out hope that Antoine would return to her after realizing his blunder and that he would be unwilling to actually remarry. Her sister couldn't believe what she said after everything that man made her go through. Carol was going through her dilemma, and on the other hand, Laurent and Vero's relationship was getting worse and worse every day. Jacqueline received a call from the parents of the young girl, requesting her to help them with the two children one day after she left him at Vero's house. Vero's mother led her to where the two were sitting in their mansion, still holding hands and unwilling to let go. As their children began to cry loudly and resisted their mothers, each mother pulled away their own child. Soon, Jacqueline became so enraged by this that she slapped Laurent in the face. Back at their home, the lady now felt horrible for hurting her son. She apologized to Laurent and later put the little one to bed, looking at his innocent face all while singing a lullaby for him. In the days afterward, Jacqueline took the two kids to several places where they would enjoy and spend time with each other. But the issue of the kids developing close to one another continued. The two would occasionally create a commotion in public places and especially in their school, and the teachers were starting to get worried about the same. In their car, Vero's parents suggested Jacqueline do the same, mentioning that the doctors were suggesting the two kids stay together. They wanted her to send her son with their daughter to a special institute where they will be taken care of. But Jacqueline wasn't pleased by this and left the car, ramming their door in. In an effort to get Laurent to forget about the girl, she hurried into her apartment and began tossing clothes and other household goods on the floor. She even broke her son's record player. After a little while, when she and Laurent entered the home, the woman pretended to be shocked by the state of their home. She cleaned the house and informed Laurent that the intruders were to blame for its state. When Jacqueline's son requested when he might see Vera once more, she responded that her parents were not returning calls. The woman kept looking at herself in the mirror, locked in the bathroom afterward, while Laurent kept calling to her. Antoine was pouring himself some milk at home when his daughter turned up the music to the loudest setting, shocking him and causing him to spill the milk all over himself. He yelled at the girl for being so foolish, and she responded by speaking back to him. As soon as she cursed at her own father, the conversation quickly escalated into a quarrel. He scared his younger daughter by yelling at the girl when he sent her to her room. Later, after admitting his fault, he entered the girl's room and sat down next to her. He admitted that even though Rose was now in his life, he hadn't forgotten about her mother and that he still cherished her. The girl apologized to him for being impolite and cried in silence. Antoine, seeing her cry, sat closer to her and hugged his daughter, kissing her head. After that, he went to Carol's house to pick up the sports shoes their youngest daughter had left behind. The daughters had told him that their mother was frequently sleepwalking, so he asked her whether she was doing okay. After a little moment of silence during which she claimed that it wasn't that way, the man drove off in his car. He cried out in silence, only the music accompanying him, as he sat there in the rain reflecting on all that was happening in his life. Carol revealed to her sister in a cafe that the young boy in the car was appearing in her dreams more frequently than ever. The youngster asks her to pick him up, but she is too afraid to, because of her fear. Her sister laughed as she described the absurd visions she was having. Carol then told her that she was considering asking for advice from a professional in paranormal phenomena. She believed the woman might be able to assist her in uncovering the mystery of her dreams. While Carol had already made up her mind, Carol's sister thought that all of these things were fantasies and even advised her not to waste her time with them. When she went to the person's house the very next day, she discovered a woman waiting there. The woman in front of Carol clasped her hands and closed her eyes as the group of women sat down outside. The woman gazed back into Carol's past minutes later and appeared to be in great pain. Carol was unable to control her tears when she learned the truth about her past life and immediately left, driving down the road in her car. On the side of the road, she stopped her car and yelled in pain after feeling her suffering once more. Laurent had vanished when Jacqueline woke up in her bed by herself. She anxiously searched the house while shouting to her kid, but she didn't hear him. Laurent was alone when he boarded the train at the station and entered the metro. Because they both walked up to his school every day, the mother quickly thought that she might find her son there. After running out into the streets in her pajamas in search of him, she hugged him tightly while she told him never to repeat such things ever again. However, the boy was only concerned about Vero and kept asking her if he could meet her. Carol disclosed to her sister that the child she had been dreaming about was actually Antoine from his previous life, and that he had a girl with him named Vero, perhaps Rose in the past. Her sister gave her a tight hug after hearing her sister sob and expressed that, given the situation she is in, she has two options: seek solutions or simply pass. Carol went on to say that she was Antoine's mother in a previous life and was attempting to keep Antoine apart from Vero, who was Rose from that earlier life. Carol lied to her sister when she questioned her about what had happened to the two children in the past, claiming that the woman who had shown her the past couldn't show her everything. The following day, upon seeing her in such a state, Carol's sister decided to pay a visit to the practitioner herself. She found her number written on one of Carol's books and decided to pay her a visit. She asked the practitioner if she was simply trying to keep Carol coming back to her so she could get paid. The practitioner, however, informed her that her sister had actually left the appointment without even being able to pay for it after learning about her past. When the woman was eventually convinced, the practitioner finally disclosed what she had observed that day. During this time, Antoine's father continued to give his customary New Year's Eve speech in front of everyone who was present in that room. However, Antoine lost his cool as his father began to speak and criticize the choice his son made, arguing that having children comes with a lot of responsibility and that he couldn't just forget about Carol, who was a lovely woman. Antoine quickly exited the crowded room with his family, while his daughter grinned and nodded in agreement with everything her grandfather had said during the speech, despite the fact that his wife had moved the elderly man to the side, while he kept yelling that his son was wrong to make such decision. The couple returned home along with the kids behind them, and Antoine started lashing out, complaining about his father while the two girls eavesdropped on their parents. Later, after considering how everyone was reacting, the two decided to put off getting married for the time being. Laurent was informed by Jacqueline that they would no longer be seeing Vero, because her parents had moved to a different city and she would only be enrolled there. Laurent, on the other hand, refused to pay attention to his mother and threw a tantrum accusing her of lying to him and demanding to see Vero. His mother locked him in a room after tying the youngster to his bed, in response to his childish tantrums. He sobbed from inside the room, pleading with his mother to free him. She was unable to witness her son in such a position and released him. The three of them sat in the car while Jacqueline drove them away from Vero's house. She sobbed as she continued to glance at the two children in the back, sped her car, closed her eyes when she saw a light ahead of her, and slammed into the car that was headed in their direction. The cars that collided were completely crushed, and Jacqueline sacrificed Everone's life in order to make sure the two never end up together. Carol took the car and went to Antoine's house after being made aware of this painful reality from her past. She hugged him closer while sobbing, stroked his hair, and gave him an apology for every pain she caused him. The man too cried and said sorry to Carol as he stood there crying and embracing her. The two shared a hug and Carol asked Rose to join the two. The three then stood there ending their differences and accepting each other as they were. Soon after, Antoine and Rose had their wedding, this time with everyone cheered up and present to celebrate the occasion. His parents and children were glad that he didn't leave Carol completely out of the picture and asked her to come to his and Rose's wedding, a beautiful moment in his life. Then the entire family joined in the celebration, and Laurent and Vero ended their stories on a cheerful note.